For time's sake, I need to summarize the next few verses. David loved Saul's daughter, Michal, very much. I've heard her pronounced all kinds of ways. I'm going to call her Michal. I like that name. And she just as much in love with David as he is with her. Well, Saul knows that David doesn't have any money to pay a dowry. So he plots to get David killed by telling David that in order to marry Michal, he must go out and kill 100 Philistine soldiers, knowing for sure that David will never come back alive. And he also tells David that he must bring back proof that he killed 100 Philistine soldiers. So David goes over to the Philistine camp and he kills him 200 Philistine soldiers. And he brings back a big bag of bloody proof that he just killed 200 Philistine Gentile men. And he dumps it right there at King Saul's feet. And every man in this room just went, eh. Okay, let me now go to point number 2. He marries Michal. Point number 2 is David's flight. As I said, we'll have to just hit the high points here in all these verses, but now on to chapter 19. These first years of the life of David were the formative years. He was out tending sheep, and God was getting him ready for the plan he had for his life. And now David is getting ready to go into his fugitive years, and we are going to see David running for his life. And also here comes his dear friend Johnathan back into his story. And in verse chapter 19 it says, "And Saul spake to Johnathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David." So not only is Saul trying to kill David, but he's put out a contract on him. But it's even more than a contract. It's an order from the king. If I find out that you haven't had an opportunity to kill David and you didn't kill him, then I'll kill you. So now Saul is having a secret meeting behind the scenes, and he has his boy Johnathan and his other cabinet members, and he wants them to kill David. Verse 2, "But Johnathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David, and Johnathan and David, saying, Saul, my father, seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore I pray thee, take heed to thyself until the morning, and abide in a secret place, and hide thyself." Okay, here we go, folks. David is on the run, and it's in the beginning of what is going to be about a 10-year time of running for David, him being a fugitive, when he is running literally for his life. So this is the beginning of being on the run for 10 long years. And that means that we should be finished with this series in about 2020. I'm just kidding. Okay, Jonathan goes before his father, King Saul. And he speaks a word for his friend David. And he is risking the wrath of his father by doing this. Verses 4 and 5. "And Johnathan spake good of David unto Saul his father, and said unto him, Let not the king sin against his servant, against David, because he hath not sinned against thee, and because his works have been in thee. In thee word." Very good. "For he put his life in his hands, and slew the Philistine, and the Lord wrought a great salvation for all Israel. Thou sawest it, and didst rejoice, and wherefore thou wilt sin against innocent blood to slay David without a cause." So Johnathan pulls on his daddy's heartstrings, and it says there in verse 6 that Saul hearkeneth unto the voice of Johnathan. And Saul sware, "As the Lord liveth, David shall not be slain." And Johnathan called David, and Johnathan showed him all those things. And Johnathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as in times past. Well, can you believe that? Wonder of all wonders. So Johnathan says to David, "Come on back, David. Everything's all right. I've worked it out." And in verse 7 it tells how that David comes back into Saul's presence, just as times past. In verse 8 it says, "And there was a war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines and slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him." Now the Bible doesn't say, but when they came back from battle, you know, the women were out there. Yay, David! He's our man. If he can't do it, nobody can. King Saul, he kills them by the thousands. Yay! But David, boy, he kills them by the tens of thousands. Yay, David! And that old green-eyed monster of jealousy totally consumed King Saul again, because it says in verse 9, and the evil spirit from the Lord was upon Saul as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand, and David played with his hand, and Saul sought to smite David even to the wall with his javelin. Zing! Once again. So David's playing along, and Saul slowly reaches over and gets his hand on the javelin, and shoosh, David ducks again. Yeah, come on, not again. Verse 10 says that David flees and escapes. He goes home, but even his home is not safe. He's not safe in his own house. Because in verse 11, David goes down to his house to be with his wife, Michelle, Saul's daughter. Man, this is worse than a soap opera. But David is not safe at home because his father-in-law has sent hired assassins to track him down and kill him on sight. And while he's in the passionate embrace of his new wife that he's missed so much and been away from, suddenly he's accosted by voices outside and banging on the front door. And this hired hit squad announces to David that King Saul wants to see him. And he can come the easy way, or he can come the hard way. But they strongly suggest that he come out the easy way and go with them. But David knows that if he does that, they will just kill him on the spot, and the only hope he has is to run. So Michelle says, through the window, through the window. So David kisses her, and out the bedroom window David goes and waits for just the right opportunity to make a run for it. And folks, if that is not a Hollywood script, then I don't know what is. But there's more, because Michelle immediately takes an image of some sort and pillows and blankets and shapes it like a person, and then she covers the top of it with a goat hair rug. And she shapes it like the back of a man's head, and she invites all of her father's men into the house, and she says, oh, my husband David, he's very sick. And he needs to get his rest. So you tell Daddy that he can't come right now. So the guys go back to King Saul, say, we couldn't do anything. He was very sick. I mean, how could we kill him right there in front of your daughter in his own house?